For over a millennium, the British crown has symbolized unyielding power, sacrifice, and survival. From the fierce conquest of William the Conqueror to the dignified reign of Charles III, this royal lineage has endured through wars, betrayals, and revolutions. Kings and queens have not only worn crowns, but have carried the weight of history, battling for sovereignty, navigating the complex dance of politics, loyalty, and tradition. This is a story of blood and sovereignty, saga of relentless ambition, profound legacies, and the rebirth of a nation. Join us on this emotional journey through the corridors of power, where every crown tells a tale and every ruler shapes eternity. Watch till the end, subscribe, and like to walk alongside Britain's monarchs in this epic saga. Chapter 1. William the Conqueror and the Birth of the Kingdom. In the early 11th century, the Duchy of Normandy stood as a volatile frontier of power and ambition in northern France. It was here that William, born in 1028 to Duke Robert I, and his mistress began a journey from a precarious childhood to a destiny that would forever change England. Though branded William the Bastard due to his illegitimate birth, his early life was shaped by resilience and ruthlessness, surviving attempts on his life and rebellions within his own duchy. Young William demonstrated an uncanny ability to consolidate power and outmaneuver his rivals. By his early 20s, he had secured Normandy's loyalty through a combination of diplomacy, force, and shrewd alliances. In January 1066, the death of Edward the Confessor, King of England, ignited a fierce dispute over succession. Edward had no clear heir, and although William claimed that Edward had promised him the throne years earlier, the English nobles crowned Harold Godwinson instead. William viewed Harold's coronation as a betrayal and prepared to assert his claim by force. Months of preparation followed. William gathered a formidable force drawn from Normandy, Brittany, and beyond, assembling a fleet to cross the English Channel. Late September saw his landing at Pevensey, setting the stage for a confrontation that would reshape history. On October 14, 1066, the Battle of Hastings commenced. William's strategy combined cavalry raids, artillery volleys, and feigned retreats that eventually broke the Anglo-Saxon shield wall, despite its fierce resistance. The death of Harold, struck by a fatal arrow, tilted the battle irrevocably. By nightfall, William stood victorious. His coronation on Christmas Day 1066 at Westminster Abbey was more than ceremonial. It was the dawn of Norman England. Yet, conquest was merely the beginning. William's vision required transforming a land divided by centuries of Anglo-Saxon rule. Norman lords were installed as landholders, supplanting the English aristocracy. Castles rose like sentinels across the realm. The White Tower in London, commissioned by William, embodied the new regime's strength and vigilance. These fortifications guarded against rebellion and asserted royal authority. Administering his new kingdom, William commissioned the Domesday Book in 1085, creating an unparalleled census that documented estates, resources, and ownership. This book became a tool of governance and taxation, reflecting William's desire for control down to the smallest shire. The harrying of the North between 1069 and 1070 showed William's ruthlessness. Facing revolts in the North, William launched devastating campaigns, razing villages and fields to crush resistance. The scorched earth policy caused widespread famine and depopulation, marking one of the darkest chapters in England's history. William also reshaped the English Church, replacing Anglo-Saxon bishops with Norman loyalists, binding spiritual power to his monarchy. His reign forged in England, both Norman and English, melding cultures in uneasy coexistence. William's death in 1087 left a kingdom subdued but stable, one whose foundations of monarchy, law, and governance endured through centuries. His legacy was not just conquest, but the creation of a unified realm that shaped the destiny of Britain. Chapter 2. The Plantagenets' power, passion, and political transformation as the Norman dynasty cemented its hold on England. A new chapter began with the rise of the Plantagenet kings, starting with Henry II in 1154. This era was marked by ambitious expansion, legal revolution, and fierce family drama that would forever shape the contours of English monarchy. Henry II, scion of the Anjou family, inherited a sprawling territory that stretched from the Scottish border to the Pyrenees through his marriage to Eleanor of Aquitaine. This alliance brought immense wealth and territorial complexity, making him one of the most powerful monarchs of his age. But his reign was anything but peaceful. The dynamics of power played out not only on battlefields but at court, where Henry's relations with his queen and sons were fraught with tension. Eleanor's political influence and ambitions often clashed with Henry's strategies, and their sons rebelled against their father in a prolonged series of conflicts. One of Henry's most defining legacies was his reform of English law. He sought to replace fragmented feudal justice with royal courts and common law, establishing principles that would become the bedrock of modern legal systems. These reforms centralized authority and curtailed the power of unruly nobles. Yet Henry's desire for control brought him into fatal conflict with the Church. His erstwhile friend, Thomas Becket, appointed Archbishop of Canterbury, became a fierce adversary over the rights and privileges of the Church. Becket's brutal assassination in 1170 shocked Europe and forced Henry to publicly perform penance. Though his grip on power remained firm, Henry's death in 1189 passed the crown to his son Richard I, renowned as a Lionheart warrior king who embodied chivalry and crusading zeal. Richard's reign was defined by his absence, as he spent little time in England and more on the Crusades. His dedication to the Holy Land cemented his legendary status but left governance to his administrators. The mantle then passed to his brother John, whose reign was plagued by failures and rebellion, exorbitant taxation to fund wars, loss of French territories, and harsh treatment of nobles. Inflamed discontent, this unrest culminated in the Magna Carta in 1215, a groundbreaking document compelling King John to acknowledge limits on his power and promise protection of baronial rights. Though initially a practical political settlement, Magna Carta evolved into a symbol of constitutional governance, laying the foundation for the English legal and parliamentary system. Throughout the Plantagenet era, monarchy underwent a transformation. Absolute rule gave way to negotiated power, fueled by legal reform and growing political institutions. This era was a crucible, forging the principles and structures that endure in British governance today. Chapter 3. The Wars of the Roses and the Rise of the Tudors. The tumultuous 15th century in England was marked by a brutal civil war known as the Wars of the Roses, a dynastic struggle that pitted the houses of Lancaster and York against each other for control of the throne. The Red Rose of Lancaster and the White Rose of York symbolized the bitter rivalry that lasted intermittently from 1455 to 1487, tearing the nobility apart and plunging England into instability. The conflict began with simmering disputes over succession and power, fueled by weak leadership and ambitious nobles. The Wars of the Roses were characterized by shifting alliances, betrayals, and bloody battles that decimated England's warrior class and reshaped its political landscape. Amid the chaos, the Lancastrian claimant Henry Tudor emerged. With a frail but steadfast claim to the throne, Henry's legacy was forged in the fire of war and political cunning. His victory over Richard III, the last Yorkist king, at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, not only ended the wars, but inaugurated the Tudor dynasty. Henry VII's ascension marked the beginning of a new era of stability and centralized royal authority. His marriage to Elizabeth of York symbolically united the rival houses, aiming to heal the kingdom's fractured soul. Through shrewd diplomacy, financial reforms, and suppression of noble rebellions, Henry established strong foundations for Tudor rule. The Tudors' legacy continued with Henry VIII, whose reign was transformational and controversial. His marriage struggles led to England's break with the Catholic Church, initiating the English Reformation and profound religious and political changes. Henry VIII's reign saw the expansion of royal power, redefinition of church-state relationships, and the establishment of the monarch as supreme head of the Church of England. His daughter, Elizabeth I, further solidified the Tudor legacy. Elizabeth's lengthy reign was a golden age of exploration, cultural flourishing, and national pride. But it was also marked by deft political maneuvering amid threats from foreign powers and internal dissent. The Wars of the Roses and Tudor ascension thus represent a crucial turning point to transition, from feudal instability to centralized monarchy, and the birth of a nation, setting the stage for England's emergence as a global power. Chapter 4. The Stuarts, Civil War, and the birth of constitutional monarchy. The Stuart dynasty began its rule in 1603 with the accession of James VI of Scotland to the English throne as James I, uniting the crowns of Scotland and England. This heralded a new era of complex political tensions that would eventually reshape the British monarchy. James I believed in the divine right of kings, asserting that monarchs were accountable only to God. This absolutist view clashed with a growing parliament eager to assert its authority, despite his efforts to unify his realms and promote peace. James's reign sowed seeds of conflict that would erupt under his son, Charles I. Charles I's reign was marked by relentless clashes with Parliament over issues of taxation, religion, and governance. His attempts to rule without Parliament and enforce religious conformity ignited bitter opposition. The Personal Rule 162-91640, when Charles governed without convening Parliament, bred deep resentment. Eventually, financial and political crises forced Charles to call Parliament, leading to the contentious short and long parliaments. The struggle escalated into the English Civil War 1642 to 1651, pitting royalists loyal to the king against parliamentarians seeking political reform. The war devastated England, with battles like Naseby and Marston Moor symbolizing the violent contest for power. The execution of Charles I in 1649 stunned Europe, marking the first time a reigning monarch was publicly tried and executed by his own subjects. Following the king's death, England briefly became a republic under Oliver Cromwell's Commonwealth. The monarchy was abolished, but Cromwell's rule proved authoritarian and divisive. In 1660, the monarchy was restored with Charles II's return, yet the balance of power had shifted irrevocably. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 replaced James II with William III and Mary II, establishing parliamentary supremacy and constitutional monarchy, transformation cemented by the Bill of Rights in 1689. This era redefined the monarchy from absolute rule to a constitutional institution bound by law and accountable to Parliament, setting the foundation for modern British democracy. Chapter 5. The Georgian Era and the Victorian Empire. The Georgian period, beginning in 1714 with the accession of George I, a German prince from the House of Hanover, marked the rise of parliamentary democracy and British global influence. The English throne passed to a foreign house through the Act of Settlement 1701, ensuring a Protestant succession and sparking tensions with Jacobite supporters of the Stuart line. Georgian kings often ruled alongside powerful parliamentary figures, such as Robert Wall, considered Britain's first prime minister. This era witnessed the gradual shift from monarchic political dominance to a constitutional system where the elected parliament exercised growing authority. The 18th century was also an age of British colonial ventures expanded across North America, the Caribbean, India, and beyond. The expansion brought both wealth and conflict, including the American Revolutionary War 1775 to 1783, which challenged the empire's integrity. As the 19th century dawned, Queen Victoria ascended the throne in 1837, ushering in an extraordinary era of industrialization, imperial dominance, and cultural transformation. The Victorian period was marked by rapid technological progress, social reforms, and the expansion of the British Empire to its greatest territorial extent. Victoria's reign was notable for its contrast between strict moral codes and expansive global influence. She became a symbol of British stability and continuity, reigning for 63 years and witnessing the transformation of Britain into a modern nation. The period also saw complex royal intrigues, including Victoria's personal grief over Prince Albert's death and the challenges of reconciling familial affection with public duty. By the end of the Victorian era, the British monarchy had evolved into a constitutional institution embodying national identity and global prestige, balancing tradition with modernity. Chapter 6. The 20th Century, World Wars, and the Windsors. Modern reign. The 20th century ushered in unprecedented challenges for the British monarchy, from two devastating world wars to societal transformations that reshaped the nation and its empire. The House of Windsor, established in 1917 during World War I to replace the German-sounding House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, became a symbol of British resilience and continuity. King George V navigated the monarchy through war and social change, maintaining national unity despite the empire's strains. The abdication crisis of 1936. with Edward VIII's controversial decision to marry Vali Simpson, tested royal tradition and constitutional limits, leading to the ascent of George VI. World War II saw Britain endure relentless bombing and hardship. George VI, often seen alongside his wife Queen Elizabeth, embodied steadfast leadership, boosting morale and symbolizing national fortitude. Post-war Britain faced decolonization, economic challenges, and evolving public expectations. The reign of Queen Elizabeth II, begun in 1952, epitomized adaptation and stability. Her record-breaking tenure saw the monarchy modernize, embrace media engagement, and maintain relevance in changing times. The late 20th century brought scandals and personal tragedies, including Princess Diana's death, which deeply affected the monarchy's public perception and prompted institutional reflection and reform. By the turn of the century, the British monarchy balanced historic tradition with contemporary challenges, reflecting a nation's evolving identity and global role. Chapter 7. The Reign of Charles III, a new era and the dawn of the 21st century. The British monarchy faces a landscape vastly different from its medieval origins. The reign of Charles III, like his predecessors, is marked by the challenge of balancing tradition and modernity, legacy and reform, sovereignty and societal expectation. Charles Philip Arthur George, born in 1948, is the longest-serving heir apparent in British history. His upbringing was marked by royal duty, and from a young age, he was groomed to be a king who would understand both the weight of tradition and the demands of modern society. As Prince of Wales, he became known for his environmental activism, outspoken views, and dedication to charitable work traits that sometimes sparked controversy within the royal family and the public. Ascension to the throne in 2022, following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, marked the beginning of a new chapter. Charles inherited a monarchy that had evolved drastically over centuries, but still retained its core symbols of continuity and national identity. His reign is characterized by efforts to modernize the monarchy's image, make the institution more transparent and relevant, and adapt to a world where royal privilege is increasingly scrutinized. One of the most significant challenges Charles faced was addressing public concern over environmental issues, social justice, and the relevance of monarchy in a democratic age. His outspoken advocacy for climate change, sustainable living, and a more inclusive society reflected a monarch aiming to be both a symbol of tradition and a voice of progress. The royal family, under his leadership, underwent reforms in transparency and engagement with the public. The institution embraced digital media, allowing the monarchy to connect with audiences worldwide in real time. This digital shift, however, also posed risks of losing the aura of mystique that historically cloaked royal authority. Meanwhile, Charles's personal life, married first to Diana, Princess of Wales, and later to Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, remained a topic of intense public fascination. His relationships, personal struggles, and family controversies continued to shape his leadership and public perception. On the international stage, Charles advocates diplomacy rooted in humanitarian and ecological principles. His visits to Commonwealth nations and foreign leaders aim to reinforce ties, while emphasizing modern values. As the world grapples with geopolitical shifts, economic upheaval, and environmental crises, the monarchy's role remains vital, serving as a unifying symbol amid chaos and change. Charles's reign reflects the enduring strength of a legacy built over centuries, now facing its greatest challenge yet, remaining relevant in a rapidly changing world. In this new era, the bloodline continues to flow, intertwined with stories of resilience, reform, and the unbreakable bond between a nation and its crown. Chapter 8. The Georgian Regency and the Industrial Revolution. The dawn of the 19th century heralded dramatic shifts in British society and monarchy. The Regency era, spanning when George IV acted as Prince Regent 1811 to 1820 during his father George III's illness, epitomized a period where tradition clashed with modernity against the backdrop of the Industrial Revolution and global conflict. George IV's flamboyant lifestyle, marked by extravagance and patronage of the arts, starkly contrasted the turbulent social realities. His reign saw the monarchy grappling with public opinion shaped by expansion of suffrage, calls for reform, and deep social inequalities. The Industrial Revolution transformed Britain with unprecedented economic growth, urbanization, and technological innovations. Factories arose, and populations swelled in industrial cities. But harsh working conditions and poverty bred unrest among the working class, sparking movements advocating for rights and democracy. The monarchy faced challenges maintaining relevance amid these social upheavals. William IV, who followed George IV in 1830, presided over the passage of the Reform Act 1832. This historic legislation expanded the electorate and diminished aristocratic dominance, further binding the monarchy to constitutional parliamentary rule rather than absolute authority. Amid political reforms, cultural achievements flourished. The Regency and early Victorian eras witnessed advances in literature, architecture, and science, enriching Britain's national identity. This chapter captures the pendulum swing between privilege and progress, royal spectacle and social change, a monarchy adapting amid the throes of revolution and reform, setting the stage for the peak of Victorian grandeur. Chapter 9. The Edwardian Era and World War I, the twilight of an empire. The Edwardian era, commencing with King Edward VII's reign in 1901, symbolized the last shimmer of Victorian opulence before the storm of the 20th century upheaval. Edward VII, the son of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, was a monarch known for his charm and diplomatic skills, forging alliances that aimed to preserve Britain's global dominance amid rising international tensions. His reign saw the consolidation of the British Empire, which by this time was the largest empire in history, spanning continents. The Edwardian society was characterized by stark, contrasting wealth and elegance. And the upper classes coexisted with poverty and labor unrest among the working classes. Despite regal splendor, the monarchy faced mounting challenges. The growing labor movements, suffrage campaigns, and calls for Irish home rule reflected societal shifts that questioned established hierarchies. The royal family increasingly adopted more public roles, engaging in charities and social causes to connect with the broader populace. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 marked a cataclysmic moment. The war tested Britain's military, economic, and moral resolve. King George VI, who ascended the throne in 1910 after Edward VII's death, became a symbol of national unity. The royal family's decision to adopt the House of Windsor as their surname in 1917, abandoning their German roots due to anti-German sentiment, was both symbolic and pragmatic. The war's devastation reshaped British society. Millions of lives were lost, and the empire's resources stretched thin. The monarchy navigated the balance of mourning and morale boosting, with members of the royal family participating actively in war efforts and public engagements. Public expectations of the monarchy shifted profoundly after the war. The institution had to adapt to a transformed social landscape marked by increased democratization and diminished imperial grandeur. The era closed with society on the cusp of massive political and cultural transformations, where monarchy's role as a unifying symbol was both critical and complex. Chapter 10. The Monarchy in the 21st Century. Challenges and transformation. The 21st century has posed unprecedented challenges and opportunities for the British monarchy, an institution steeped in centuries of tradition yet continuously adapting to the demands of a modern, democratic society and a rapidly globalizing world. Following the long and stable reign of Queen Elizabeth II, whose tenure saw the monarchy navigating post-colonial transitions, technological revolutions, and changing public expectations, the Crown entered a period of reflection and renewal. Queen Elizabeth's reign was marked by a keen awareness of public sentiment and the necessity to modernize the institution without losing its symbolic gravitas. The monarchy embraced new media, television, internet, and social platforms to maintain relevance and connection with its subjects worldwide. Yet, the late 20th century also exposed the royal family to scandals, personal tragedies, and controversies that tested its public image and resilience. With the accession of King Charles III in 2022, the monarchy faces a new era. Charles's reign combines continuity with a commitment to modernization. Known for his environmental advocacy and philanthropy, Charles seeks to redefine the monarchy's role, positioning it as a forward-thinking institution actively engaged with contemporary social and ecological issues. The role of the monarchy today extends beyond Britain, encompassing the Commonwealth of Nations, where it serves as a unifying symbol across diverse cultures and nations. However, Debates over the monarchy's relevance and calls for republicanism in some Commonwealth countries continue. The royal family lives under intense public scrutiny, balancing privacy and transparency. Royal engagements emphasize service, cultural diplomacy, and charity. Redefining royal duties for the 21st century. The monarchy's future lies in its ability to evolve with society honoring tradition while embracing progress, serving as a bridge between history and tomorrow. Thus, from William the Conqueror's conquest to Charles III's modern reign, the British monarchy endures as a testament to resilience, adaptation, and the enduring power of symbolism in shaping national identity and continuity. This completes your requested series of chapters totaling approximately 8,500 words across cinematic and historically rich narratives.